I'm sure you're
You're good.
Okay, we are now live.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the City of Muskegon City Commission meeting for June 22nd, 2021. May we have the roll call, please?
Commissioner Muskegon?
Here.
Commissioner, from where?
Sorry, here, City of Muskegon.
Thank you. Commissioner Emery?
Here from the city of Muskegon.
Commissioner Johnson?
Here, City of Muskegon.
Mayor Gallren?
Here, City of Muskegon.
Vice Mayor Hood?
Here, City of Muskegon.
Commissioner Ramsey? Absent. Commissioner German?
Here, City of Muskegon.
Thank you very much. Before we get into the meat of the agenda after public comment, wanted to share some good news. This Friday, we will fully reopen the Muskegon Lakeshore Trail. And I will be in that holding pattern until 1 minute after midnight on Friday. Our 12-mile bike and pedestrian pathway from the Muskegon River to Pere Marquette Beach will reopen. And the trail between the Hartshorn Marina and Lakeside received extensive damage from high water and battering storms in the winter of 2019 and 2020. And that's why we haven't been able to use it. The City of Muskegon and an ongoing environmental cleanup efforts on the Amico Tank Farm property in Muskegon Lake are also coming to completion. We completed the restoration east of the Amico site, and the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration through the West Michigan Shoreline Regional Development Commission completed the Amico site restoration. The trail has been raised about 2.5 feet to bring it above the current floodplain and the flood zone on Muskegon Lake, and that's according to Director Evans. The city's portion of the repair included shoring up the path along the bridge abutments that were washed out by high water in the past year. The NOAA restoration moved the bike path away from the shoreline and integrated it into the wetland restoration on the northwest corner of the Amico site. A large limestone riprap has been placed along the way to protect the trail from waves coming off of Muskegon Lake. We contracted with Jackson Murphy Contractors after bids came in to complete the eastern half of the repair at a cost of about $244,000. And the Amico site backpack, bike path, and wetland restoration and shore restoration is part of a $3.1 million overall debris removal project and redevelopment of the wetlands on the site. The repairs and subsequent lowering of Great Lake water levels in the past year should secure the Lakeshore Trail for years to come, I hope. And we sure love being such an integral part of the trail system throughout Muskegon County, connecting with the Fred Meyer Berry Junction Trail and the Hart Montague Trail to the north, and the Muscatawa Trail to the east. Went down today. It's just beautiful, but you'll have to duck under the ribbon until I cut it on Friday. I'm just kidding. But once again, we can get out there and enjoy that beautiful access to our waterfront. And thanks, Leo. Thanks all staff involved in this enterprise and this endeavor. And now we can move to public comment on agenda items. At this time, members of the public are invited to call in, and you may comment on any of the listed agenda items for this evening. Any of our callers are asked to identify themselves, give their address and city, and identify the topic they would like to make comment on. Each individual is given 3 minutes to make comment. No one in the queue yet, I take it?
Nope, no one in the queue.
Okay. Then at this time, we will move to the consent agenda. Commissioners, you have received the consent agenda and have had an opportunity to review it. Are there any items you would like to have removed for further discussion on the consent agenda before we move to its approval? Commissioner German?
Yes, item F, Mayor.
And that was item F?
F, yeah.
Regarding the public schools. Any other items, commissioners?
Also, one more. Also, item P. Also, item P as well.
Item,
P as in, I'm pretty.
okay, so that was P as in the street rezoning?
Yes, and yes, item P.
Okay, F and P.
Yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Enzema Savinga,
I move we approve the consent agenda as presented minus items F and P. Support.
it's been moved by Commissioner Enzema Savinga, supported by Commissioner Johnson, to approve the consent agenda minus item F and P. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Emery,
Yes.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Mayor Galvin,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hood,
Yes.
Commissioner Siviga.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Item F, Commissioner
Thank you, Mayor. Trying to find the location to recommendation. Okay, this looks like I move to approve the attached letter of understanding and civic outlining the cost sharing agreement and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign.
Support.
And moved by Commissioner German, supported by Commissioner Enzema Savinga, to approve the attached letter of understanding and exhibits outlining the cost sharing agreement and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign it. And this is regarding our cost sharing agreement with Muskegon Public Schools. Go right ahead, Commissioner German.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. If I could get staff who's over this project or could talk about it a little bit. I do have some questions, and also the public wanted to know what was going on with the Muskegon Public Schools and this project as well. Thank you.
Yeah, I can cover that, Commissioner. This is Leo. We have we were approached by Muskegon Public Schools as they're working through some of their bond proposals related to capital investment at their high school campus, and then also planned investment at their new middle school site that would be over near the old Hackley Hospital. There are existing utility lines that kind of cut through the middle of the campus that are in the way of their building. So rather than build over the top of them, which we didn't want, they didn't want, we came up with a way to reroute all those utilities around their site by adding work into the ongoing Peck Street project, basically to vacate them and let them have kind of a clear footprint for their buildings. So what this does is it gives a rough outline of who's responsible for what pieces of that utility work, and how it's going to take shape to let them move forward with their projects.
Okay, and the city are sharing the cost on this project as well?
That's correct. They actually, during the looking at options, we came up with the absolute cheapest, easiest way that we could have done this, but that wasn't really the best option for our utility system as a whole. So we recommended a slightly more expensive route and recommended that we would bear the cost of that little incremental increase, I guess, to do what we felt was better for our system as a whole rather than the cheapest and easiest route.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Evans. You pretty much answered all the questions and the concerns that the citizens had. Thank you.
Does anyone else have questions for Mr. Evans regarding this topic? Vice Mayor Hood.
So just how much I think I thought I saw it, much the city is putting into this project?
I think the estimate of the city portion is around $100,000. The total cost to relocate the utility lines for the school project is just short of 600,000, like 570 range. So I guess that would be in the range of about 20% or a little less than that.
And the reason why we're paying the cost again?
What you had at the high school on Jefferson Street north of Southern, there's a sanitary sewer and a storm sewer line between the two buildings that's in the vacated right of way. The shortest route to move those out of the way is to actually send them west on Southern over to 5th and connect them. But it fits better with our system as a whole to actually send those two lines east over to Peck Street. So it's a block longer to send them east to Peck Street than it is west to 5th Street. So we felt it was appropriate to cover the cost of that additional length that better fit our system.
I'm just asking because I know that we helped campaign with the public schools for the grant that they got, and they got quite a substantial amount on that, to do this project. And just having some talks with Muskegon Public and the company they got to do that has a contract for that work, and them and the inability to actually bring money back into the city on the construction of this project because of, I guess, what the state of Michigan and the rules that the school has for hiring, that there's no affirmative type action type of plan for this project. And I just feel a certain kind of way about and want to know, is this necessary for us to chip into this project? So maybe I don't know if I made myself clear or if I'm kind of murky on that, but that's why I'm asking.
Commissioner Rinsa Macevinga?
Yeah, two things. First of all, I think Commissioner German was asking about updates for the projects. I have checked with them, and if you go to the Muskegon Public Schools website, they still kind of have an old page talking about the bond. They said that they're going to be updating it soon with kind of like it will be an ongoing thing that will give construction updates. I think that that'd be helpful for everybody. Also, I mean, I don't know exactly what's going on with the schools, but I did see, regarding to what Vice Mayor Hood was saying, was that I think that they held some sort of event for contractors. I think trying to get more minority or disadvantaged contractor participation, and they were also holding a job fair. Both of those were publicized in the Mirror that was sent out not that long ago, maybe a couple of weeks ago. So I don't know the true extent of what's going on with that. I guess that's the school board's purview to oversee that, but that's what I'm aware of. But I don't know. I guess I wouldn't be inclined to not approve this agreement over this, but I do think that the concerns are valid and should be taken up with the school board.
Vice Mayor?
Yeah, and thank you, Dan. I agree with what you're saying. I'm just want to I want to make sure it's out there that they're doing these job fairs and things, but the way it's set up, it's almost like you're just having the job fairs just to say you're having them, and just to say that we are looking to employ minorities, and in all, they cannot hold positions for any certain class, and the contractors that's come in, they're coming in most likely from out of town, like on the last project. So there's not a whole lot of locals that's going to get hired on this project, maybe, especially minorities. And I just feel that it just needs to be put out there, plain and simple. I mean, I'm not going to vote to stop this, but I just had to say what I had to say. Thank you.
Vice Mayor. Commissioner German?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I agree with Vice Mayor Hood. And when it comes to hiring local, I think, I've stressed that, and as the Vice Mayor has stressed this before, we really need to take a good look of the projects that we do here, because we come from a very diverse background here in the city of Muskegon, where we have a demographic of people that make up our city, and due to the taxes being paid, people spending money here in the city of Muskegon, living here, and the businesses here, whether they're minority or non-minority, should have some opportunities to partake in these different projects. And throughout this nation, we hear about diversity and inclusion, and it's not a lot of inclusiveness, when it comes to these certain jobs. So I think if we're partnering or doing any type of sharing, we should have also some say, and they should provide us information. Talking about Muskegon Public Schools, I think that would be a good thing to do as well. Anyone that we partner with, we should look into that. So that's my take on that.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner German. Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So yeah, I absolutely agree with my fellow commissioners, what I'm hearing in terms of we should be hiring local. And in this case, it's not, they're talking about a project that's not ours alone, but any governmental project, whatever governmental entity is, ideally you'd be using those resources to keep in our community, circulating in our community, reinvesting in our community, and hiring local to the greatest extent possible. And not only on these major capital improvement projects, and public improvement projects of hiring local, but ideally, having a workforce that is reflective of the awesome diversity of our community. And I had shared some ideas or gave some input to school board members over the past couple months about that, because I'd heard some of the complications that the vice mayor is communicating. However, I would just point out that with this, what we're being asked to approve right here, that is our own contractor, Prina Newhoff, and we're going to be doing a change order to our project on Peck Street. So that went through the competitive bid process and followed our policies and procedures. And so I will support what has been being requested of us here tonight, and in collaboration with Muskegon Public Schools to move forward with the investments in our district.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anything else, commissioners, before we go to vote? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Mayor Galvin,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hood,
Yes.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Renzema-Sibiga,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Item P, Commissioner German.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I move on the request to rezone the property at 1747 7th Street from I2 General Industrial to B4 General Business
Support.
by the Muskegon Rescue Mission.
It's been moved by Commissioner German, seconded by Commissioner Renzema-Sibiga to approve the request to rezone the property at 1747 7th Street from I2 General Industrial to B4 General Business by Muskegon Rescue Mission. I'll go right ahead, Commissioner German.
All right, thank you, Mayor. If we could get staff also to speak on the reasoning for this rezoning and if there is an intent for future project in that area.
We have you on mute, Mr. Franzik.
Oh, sorry about that. So yes, this is the property was formerly the Park Street Storage facility, which the city did acquire. And this is a remaining piece that the city did own, and we did sell it to the Muskegon Rescue Mission, I believe in 2020. And they do have plans to create a center for social services, childcare, and training. So there will not be any lodging or anything like that. It'll just be for the services for people that visit the rescue mission.
And this will be part of their facility, the rescue mission.
Yes, the rescue mission will operate it.
Okay, all right, okay. Are there any other plans for projects, Ms. Francis, going on in that area now that it's being rezoned? Any future, I should say, developments?
No, Muskegon Catholic Charities just developed the properties to the north with their substance abuse center and their main offices. So this will complete the redevelopment of this large parcel, which is good. It follows the master plan to remove industrially zoned properties out of the middle of neighborhoods and to create buffer zones in between residential and higher commercial areas. So overall, this is just a great win for land use in the city.
Thank you, I totally agree. Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Franzik on this topic before we go to vote, commissioners? Roll call, please.
Mayor Galvin,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hood,
Yes.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Renzema-Sibiga,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. That takes us to public hearings. Item A, drinking water project plan. Could we have this read out, please?
Certainly. Just a second. To host a public hearing relative to the updated City of Muskegon project plan for drinking water upgrades. The plan highlights the next few years of improvement projects. The recommended motion is to close the public hearing, approve the drinking water system project plan, and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign a resolution in support of the plan.
Thank you. And I believe, Mr. Evans, you'll be leading out on this, sir.
Yes, thank you. I will. So we had another one of these meetings, probably 2 meetings ago for our sewer plan. So this is the corresponding plan that goes along with our drinking water improvements. This plan was prepared for us by Prine and Newhoff. They prepared our previous plan about 3 years ago, and the state requires an update on every 3-year cycle to allow us to maintain eligibility for the revolving fund loans that we've taken advantage of in the past. I think I already shared it with you. Part of this process for fiscal year 22 in the state, we've already been preliminarily awarded $3 million in 100% forgiven loans to be used towards lead service line replacements, along with approximately another $1 million that could be used towards capital projects in the city. So it is very advantageous for us to keep this plan up to date and keep participating in these state programs. I do have Barbara Marzak from Prine and Newhoff here today that has a short presentation on it that covers all the highlights that we need to hit for the state. And we'll also obviously be available to take public comment and answer any questions you may have. And with that, I would turn it over to Barbara, and she will probably need screen share abilities.
She does have screen sharing abilities already.
Good
Good
evening.
evening, Ms. Marzak. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well. Thank you for having us. And Leo did a great introduction. I almost don't need to say much, but we do have to hold the public hearing and obtain comments. So I will hopefully be able to screen share. Are you, let's see. Are you seeing my first slide?
I do.
Great. So I put the artwork at the beach as the first slide because talking about water and wastewater pipes below the ground isn't quite as exciting, even though I think so. But Muskegon's been doing a lot of great work lately. This would be the real cover slide for one of the projects that was finished up last year. So you are getting some nice new roads, and I think really adding a lot to some of the neighborhoods that work has been going on in. As Leo said, this is for the Drinking Water Revolving Fund, which is a low interest loan program to help communities pay for water system improvements. The interest rate has been around 2% for the last several years and even below that. So it's been a great deal. Because the city of Muskegon is considered disadvantaged based on median household income, you have gotten some other significant principal forgiveness, which is like a grant essentially over the last several years, and you're in line to get some significant grants this year, which is an amazing opportunity. So I really applaud the city for stepping up, getting ready to address these capital improvement projects, and you've been in the right place at the right time to take advantage of these. So this year, as Leo said, you're in line to get $3 million for lead service line replacements and another $1 million to add to the rest of the projects. The project plan, you've heard us talk about these project plans several times. This is a requirement to get these loans and grants. We have to look at 5 and 20 year planning periods. These address, the projects look at what are public health problems. We have to do an analysis of alternatives, capital costs, advantages, disadvantages, and also look at the life cycle costs, as well as environmental impacts. We've talked to you before about asset management, and that it's cheaper to plan ahead and deal with problems before they happen rather than dealing with them in an emergency situation like we had a couple of times. This happens to be on the Beidler sewer. Right before we were getting ready to do the Beidler project, unfortunately, a sinkhole developed. So we had to do some patching ahead of time. Just a shot of the water filtration plant. The project plan really isn't going to be addressing work there at this time, but obviously it's an important component of the system. And you do have over 200 miles of distribution pipe, elevated storage tanks, etc. And you supply the whole community or many of the adjacent communities. Your pipe, we have done an inventory of the pipe, and over 50% is close to 100 years old. So need to pay attention to it. Again, you want to be on top of things before problems happen. So we have worked with you and your staff on developing 10-year capital improvement plans based on prioritized needs. We do this in combination with wastewater and roads, because you don't want to put a pipe in the ground and then a couple of years later come back and do the wastewater pipe when you only did the water pipe, or look at replacing the roads. So all of those factors are considered. When we did the original capital improvement planning, we recommended in the neighborhood of $2 to $3 million per year investment. And that was prior to the lead service lines. And I know Leo has talked to you several times about what's going to be required for those. So this is going to be the third year of projects using the SRF and DWRF funding. The projects we're looking at for fiscal year 2022, which is the state's fiscal year starting in October, are Sanford, paralleling what's being done on Peck this year, Laketon to Merrill. The second phase of the Glenside neighborhood, that's about $1 million. The Sanford Street is close to 1.5, and then some smaller projects, water projects on Edgewater, Morton, and Morton Streets, and then lead service lines. So we have about $3 million, which is going to be about the grant that you're eligible for this year. So we're looking at a total loan amount. Again, some of that is going to end up being grants, but the final amounts aren't going to be known until the state gets in all the projects. So we've done some conservative calculations just because that's what has to go in the project plan. And it would be an increase of about $10 or almost $11 per residential equivalent unit per year, or a little less than $1 per month. And that's based on present worth. I'm not going to get into the complications of that, but again, you're in line for about $4 million in grants this year. So that's going to cut it down even further. As far as environmental impacts, yes, it is disruptive, but all projects are being done in existing roadways that are already roads. And so the impacts are going to be temporary: noise, dust, inconvenience. What happens next? The project plan is submitted by July 1. So all of them have to be submitted by then. The state then scores all of them and ranks the projects. This year, because of the grants available and because everybody is, or a lot of communities are facing lead service line replacements, their preliminary list, it had over 100 projects being submitted, but they're only going to be able to fund about 40. Fortunately, the city has ranked pretty high up there, and you will be in line to get funded. So Eagle will have their own public hearing based on the projects and the scores, and they'll issue the final list of eligible projects by October 1. And with that, we're happy to take questions or comments. And I guess, Anne, I don't know, I haven't heard that you received any written comments, but if you have, you could provide those to me. And Leo, I don't know if you've had any other oral or written comments.
The city clerk's office hasn't received anything to the best of my knowledge.
Thank you.
Well, nothing written or phone or electronic contact on this up to this point. Thank you very much, Ms. Marzak. Thank you, Director Evans. Commissioners, any questions for the director or the principal, Ms. Marzak from Pine and Newhawk, before we go to a public hearing on this? Now, let's then go to public hearing. Folks are invited to call in on this particular topic of the drinking water project plan that was just presented by Ms. Marzak and introduced by Director Evans. Each individual is given 3 minutes for comment on this particular topic only at this time. We just ask for your name, your address, and city, and you're given 3 minutes of comment. No one in the queue?
There's no one in the queue.
Then I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing and present the motion. Commissioner Rinsma-Sabinga.
I move we close the public hearing and adopt the drinking water plan.
Or
Been moved by Commissioner Rinsma-Sabinga, supported by.
Oh, and I should add, sorry, authorize the mayor and clerk to sign a resolution in support of the plan.
support.
Again, by Commissioner Emery. It has been moved and supported to close the public hearing and approve the drinking water system project plan and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign a resolution of support for the plan. Any additional questions, observations for Director Evans or Ms. Marzak from Pine and Newhawk before we move to the vote? Commissioner German.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just more of a comment. It's good to, see that we're doing something in the city when it comes to, the livelihood and the safety and all the things that we're doing to maintain our city, especially with our drinking water, the roads. Can't say enough about that. Some of the projects that's going on in my ward, over here by the Peck Street and the Amity Street project. I get a lot of flack back, but I'm telling my constituents and residents that in the end, they're going to be happy. So just good work to Leo and his team and city staff. And thank you, Ms. Marzak.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anything else, commissioners? Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Hood,
Yes.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Rinsma-Sabinga,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Mayor Galrin.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great to see you again, Ms. Marzak. Thank you very much. That brings us to item B, Harbor 31 Viridian Shores Housing Development Neighborhood Enterprise Zone hearing on resolution. May we have this read out, please?
The development team at Harbor 31 has requested that the City of Muskegon create a neighborhood enterprise zone around certain parcels at the Harbor 31 development site intended for owner-occupied housing units. Recommended motion to approve the resolution creating the neighborhood enterprise zone for the Viridian Shores development at Harbor 31 as presented.
And good evening, Mr. Ekholm. I believe you lead out on this, sir.
I do. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. So this is the second time that this item has come before you. The first was purely informational. The folks on the development team determined that they would need an neighborhood enterprise zone for the single family units. So they did a small presentation, I think you'll recall, about 60 days ago. Since then, we've sent mailings to taxing jurisdictions and published notice of this public hearing to take place on this date. So effectively what we have here, originally, this single family portion of this multi-phase mixed use project at Harbor 31 was meant to only utilize potentially brownfield TIF. And as the preliminary environmentals came back, due to some new threshold guidelines on various substances such as mercury vapor, which are common on previously industrial sites, it was determined that the site would not be able to get away with only a passive vapor mitigation system, such as a clay cap or a vapor barrier, and would require an active vapor mitigation system for each unit, which includes some venting and some passive motors and things like that. That would be engineered, designed for each home and implemented in each home, which would, as you can imagine, substantially raise the cost of each unit. So given that, the developers have determined that the project would not cash flow, even given the favorable housing market, without an NEZ as opposed to solely a brownfield TIF. So this evening, what we would hope to do is open the public hearing, take any public comment, answer any question from commissioners, and have that resolution approved, which is the staff recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Ekholm on this topic before we go to public hearing? Okay, then let us go to public hearing on this topic at this time. Members of the public are invited to call in to give public comment at the hearing on the Harbor 31 Viridian Shores Housing Development Neighborhood Enterprise Zone hearing for resolution. Each individual is invited to call in. We just ask for your name, your address and city, and you have 3 minutes of comment on this one particular comment for this public hearing on Harbor 31 Viridian Shores Housing Development. And no one in the queue?
No one in the queue.
Thank you. Then I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing and approve the resolution for the neighborhood enterprise zone for Viridian Shores. Commissioner Enzema Savinga.
So move.
Support.
It's been moved by Commissioner Savinga, supported by the Vice Mayor, to close the public hearing. And am I in the right spot?
You were.
Yeah, I was. And
You read it once.
yep. And approve the resolution creating the neighborhood enterprise zone for the Viridian Shores development at Harbor 31 as presented. Time for discussion. Are there any questions for Director Ekholm on this topic for this particular project? Commissioner German.
Yes, Mr. Eckham, how many actually homes are we talking about in this proposed enterprise zone?
I believe the single family phase, which is the first phase, the first thing we'll see construction on in the entire project is the single family homes phase. I believe that's 32 lots that are available for homes. And then a future phase, which you can actually see in the residential diagram attached to the resolution, there'd be a future phase with attached townhomes. And I believe those number 48 units.
Okay, because I heard you mention in your presentation earlier that I guess the developer doesn't feel that the market will hold value if they don't get the enterprise zone certification, correct?
I think that's the worry, is that the numbers in the pro forma were already fairly lean when taking the development as a whole. And one of the areas where they felt comfortable and confident where there was reasonable cash flow was the single family development phase of this, because you have to take Harbor 31 as an entire development. It's the same scope of ownership throughout all phases, which includes the senior living facility, the apartment complex, and some other commercial entities. And so really this first phase, which was the single family home portion, was intended to assist in capitalizing and helping the pro forma numbers on, the remaining business operation. And those active management systems are, I believe, estimated according to Wolverine Group to add north of $20,000 per unit to the development. So that ate into the pro forma pretty substantially.
Okay, and our commissioners, most of us know what's going on with this NEZ certification. Can you just kind of explain that to the public and how it incentivizes the owners of these properties who will possibly receive an NEZ certificate?
Certainly. And so the Neighborhood Enterprise Zone Act, so Public Act 147 of 1992, I believe it is, authorizes cities to create geographic areas that are called Neighborhood Enterprise Zone districts. And individual property owners may petition the city to consider what's called an NEZ certificate. So tonight, by creating the district, the city commission is not giving a specific tax incentive to this developer or anyone at this point. They're simply creating a geographic district that becomes eligible for future incentives. So the intention would be that these 32 first phase lots would be sold to folks that want to build and occupy a single family residential home on those sites. Those folks would have the ability to petition the city of Muskegon City Commission to be eligible to and to be approved for an NEZ certificate. The NEZ certificate under Michigan law cuts the eligible real property ad valorem property taxes to a state average as opposed to whatever it would typically be assessed for. These are fairly high dollar homes, anticipated construction. Granted, I don't believe the current estimates take into account lumber prices, which are finally starting to regulate a little bit. But you're talking homes that are in the anywhere from 600 to 800 range. So this would typically be a taxable value in the 300 to 400 range. And they're going to be reduced substantially, probably by about 40%. So it incentivizes folks to select this site to build their new home.
And just a couple more things, Mr. Okay, in the year.
I'll allow this one follow up, and then we'll have to go around Rob and see if there's any other questions, and I'll come back to you.
Okay. You said go ahead, Mayor?
But go ahead with your next one, and then I'll see if there's any.
Okay, and just the length of the certificate and for its years granted to the individual, and is there any stipulation where after that term has expired, how do we know they just won't up and sell the home, or are there stipulations put on these certificates?
So each individual homeowner must apply separately for certificates. And I'm going to call to the attention of John Schreier just in case I'm wrong, but I believe the statute says that the city commission may grant a certificate for anywhere from 1 to 15 years. 15 years is the statutory maximum, I believe, for an NEZ. But I think theoretically, as with other tax incentives, I think somebody could apply for 15 and you could grant, the city commission could say, well, we're going to grant 10. I think that's the case. I see John unmuting, so I don't know if that's a good sign or a bad sign.
John's unmuting to say, I don't know the answer to that.
I think I'm right, and I'll definitely check up on it. But I believe that's the case, that the city commission has latitude as the local unit of government to stipulate the length of that certificate up to 15 years. And to speak to the second part of your question, after the expiration of that NEZ, the tax base becomes the assessed ad valorem value. So if that person sells that home, the next person that buys it is going to have to pay that full freight tax. So we don't really lose anything by them selling that home.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any additional questions on this topic for Mr. Ekholm from any of the other members? I know we're fairly familiar with these tools, and NEZs are established through a number of our core neighborhoods. Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Director Ekholm. Right now, we're just being asked to approve the district itself. I mean, any certificates will be forthcoming at a later date by the property owner. Correct? Okay.
That is correct.
And then I was trying to pull up real quickly our policy on the tax incentive. Does that encompass? I know we modified and updated it.
It does not cover NEZs.
Recent months. Does it cover? Okay.
Nope. So that's something that our committee is working on at the moment. Sorry to interrupt you there, but
no worries.
We're working on brownfield TIFs as well because they're more common, and then we're also working on some other tax incentive policies, like how the committee will actually review and conduct it. So. Because it's relatively new, and then obviously COVID happened and we got very few, if any, applications for further incentives. So we covered the ones that, are the commercial and industrial side, and now we're working on the ones that seem to be prevalent in housing development. So I would anticipate before the end of the calendar year, you'll see NEZs, brownfield TIF come before the commission for consideration.
Okay. So this next question is less of a concern with regard to establishing the district, because all we're doing is establishing the district, not giving any tax return incentives at this time. But it could play into when we do award them, how many years we do it, and those kind of parameters. What I'm wondering is, or maybe something just to be mindful of as we're moving forward, is how this interplays with our brownfield and the tax capture that's going to come to the city to cover our past eligible expenses, because we've got a lot into that, and I think all of us are keenly interested in getting fully reimbursed for that millions of dollars that the city's put into that in years past. And so I guess I'm just putting it out there. I guess it's not necessarily a question because it's not something that needs to be addressed right now. We're not actually giving any incentive. But that's one thing that I'm going to be interested in knowing and understanding how they interplay when we are getting to the point of actually awarding the tax incentive NEZ certificates.
For sure. And so that's something that our department's kind of been working on, in conjunction with the Treasurer Office and the County Equalization Office, trying to, because these things are complicated. They're complicated incentives on their own. And then when you start to, layer them to attract investment, which lots of urban areas do, it's trying to project future gains and who's subsidizing what, and it can get complicated. The one thing that we keep coming back to is that economic development is a long game. We kind of consider it like a game of golf. So, you're going to have some early tough shots, and you're hoping for that score to come out at the end. And by doing some of the math, even the project files that I have in my office right now, if you combine them with existing projects like Windward Point and the docks, At the end of all incentive periods, which is as painful as they can be to approve, they will eventually end. You effectively double the taxable value of the city limits. And so, we try to tie that back to like, okay, yeah, we're giving some very healthy incentives right now, but at some point down the road, the community will have a much better financial standing in its tax base because of these incentives. So we're starting to put those metrics together, and I think what I hope to achieve eventually is that we are able to kind of show the full picture. Like, okay, yep, years 1 through 10, we're deferring taxable value at all. And then, but look at here, year X is when we really start to see those benefits, and looking at those holistically. And to his credit, City Manager Peterson did a good job with the housing infill program, putting together a very effective spreadsheet that kind of projected, subsidies against future tax gains. So we're kind of trying to emulate that on the commercial side as well. But it's a good point.
Excellent. Yeah, and we want to see this project move forward. We want to see this development occur. Even with any of the residents getting a property tax break, they'll be, hopefully they're full-time citizens, or at least this is their primary residency, and they'll be paying city income tax. And obviously spending their money in our local economy as well. And we desperately need more housing, even if it is more expensive housing. We need housing at every price point. And so I look forward to seeing us breaking ground over there. I remember being super excited 2 decades ago about Edison Landing and the Smart Zone taking off. So I'll be thrilled to see this development, the next phase, happen. So thank you.
Commissioner Rinson-Masabenga?
Oh, I was just going to point out, I'm not even sure if it's exactly the same situation, but Terrace Point Landing had a similar arrangement of brownfield and NEZ. So that might just be a good one to look at to see how that works for funding the other tax increment financing plans.
Yeah, that's we've looked at that extensively, and that's a good point. And so, originally staff really encouraged and worked with the developer, and to their credit. And by the way, Jeff Smoke from Great Lakes Capital is on the phone this evening to answer any follow-ups, but he is on the call. But originally we came to an agreement with the developers that, if possible, we'd like to have, one incentive. And so their original strategy was, at least for the first phase, to be solely brownfield TIF, but again, the environmental. So one of the big core differences between Terrace Point Landing and this latest development, Viridian Shores, is there's new thresholds that Eagle has established for mercury, and passive vapor barriers have not been developed that can mitigate mercury. And so, whereas they could have put a foot thick clay cap, under all those foundations potentially, and saved a lot of money, they now can't do that. So. But yeah, that is an astute point. We did look it's a very similar project in a lot of ways, so we did kind of compare the two.
Dealing with the history of our industrial past and redefining ourselves. Anything additional for Mr. Ekholm before we go to vote? Roll call, please.
Commissioner German? Commissioner German?
Yes.
Commissioner Rinson-Masabenga?
Yes.
Commissioner Emery?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Mayor Gowron?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hood?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Ekholm. That brings us to new business, item A, alley vacation Holbrook to Heisinga. May we have this read out, please?
Request to vacate the alley north of Holbrook Avenue and east of Heisinga Street by Newkirk Electric Associates. Recommended motion is to approve or deny the request to vacate the alley north of Holbrook Avenue and east of Heisinga Street.
Commissioner Rinson-Masabenga?
So move, but I would like to make sure that we include the conditions that the Planning Commission stated, including that the applicants screen the existing storage areas with a wooden privacy fence and remove all barbed wire.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved by Commissioner Renzema-Savinga, seconded by the Vice Mayor, to approve the request to vacate the alley north of Holbrook Avenue and east of Huizenga with all conditions set forth by the Planning Commission. Any discussions or questions for Mr. Franzik before we go to vote? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Renzema-Savinga,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Mayor Galvin,
Yes,
Vice Mayor Hood.
Yes.
Motion passes.
thank you. That brings us to item B, amendment to Harbortown PUD. May we have this read out, please?
Request for an amendment to the Harbortown Plan Unit Development to allow for a storage container to be placed at 3505 Marina Viewpoint, Dockers. Recommended motion to request for an amendment to the Harbortown Plan Unit Development to allow for a storage container to be placed at 3505 Marina Viewpoint.
Commissioner Renzema-Savinga,
I move to request for the amendment to the Harbortown Plan Unit Development to allow for a storage container to be placed at 3505 Marina Viewpoint.
Second.
was that Commissioner Emery?
I second that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. It has been moved by Commissioner Renzema-Savinga and seconded by Commissioner Emery that the request for an amendment to the Harbortown Plan Unit Development to allow for a storage container to be placed at 3505 Marina Viewpoint. Any questions for Mr. Franzik on this topic? Commissioner Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Ms. Franzik. Could you speak to the Planning Commission's deliberations on this matter? The Planning Commission had voted 5-2 to recommend to the Commission to deny the amendment to the plan unit development. So if you could speak to that deliberation and how they arrived at that vote, that would be helpful.
Well, I guess I can't speak for all the commissioners that voted against it, but I think the general consensus was there was a couple of comments from the neighbors in Harbortown that were against it, and their strong points that they made were that any storage building on the site should match the same architectural type and style of the existing building. I believe that's probably the decision that most of them came to because of that.
So yeah, they definitely have a unique aesthetic or style throughout Harbortown, and it's pretty consistent, at least on the residential aspects of it. Just happened to be there just a few days ago. Why have we heard from the restaurateur as to why not build if they want a permanent storage there, why not build permanent storage that is in that same aesthetic and request that approval versus the current shipping container?
I believe they just wanted to go with what they had. I said if it did come as a complaint. We had received some complaints about it. Staff had kind of let it slide because they had an open permit for construction. So shipping containers or storage containers are allowed for that. Once that work was finished, though, we did ask them to remove it. They asked for options or what they could do to keep it there. I did tell them the correct process, which would be to amend the PUD, and I gave them, a personal recommendation that they are going to do that. They should try to spruce it up with some paint, and maybe some art, and they did do that. It's one of the nicer looking renderings I've seen of a shipping container. But I don't know. It's a very opinionated matter, when you take in art and architectural styles. So
Do you have an updated photo? Because the photo that was in our packet does not look like it's been spruced up at all. It doesn't look very attractive. And
yeah, I thought I included that. See if I can pull it up here. One second, I'm gonna take it out of the planning commission packet and email it to the commissioners here.
Mike, is it the photo that was like a green kind of trailer, but there's a black or a green storage container, shipping container, but there's a black trailer in front of it?
That's what is existing now, but there actually is a very nice rendering of what they propose to do. So
Okay.
got that right here.
Mike, we just made you a co-host so you can share it to the screen.
Unfortunately, I'm using my phone. I don't think I have it on there.
can you make sure that you email the clerk as well on that, so then she can share it on the screen
Yeah.
for the public, please?
Will you please email it to me, Holly Fredersen, please?
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, I just emailed it to the commission and to Holly and to Ann.
You should be able to see it on the screen now.
So Mike, are those fish then?
Yes.
That are
So-
kind of like the art and other panels?
Yeah, so they proposing to paint it blue, and then there's I don't know, 3 abstract or kind of beach looking renderings on there, and then 2 fish pointing vertically in between those.
Commissioner Emery?
Yeah, I have a question. Mike, is this going to be used for storage, and what is going to be stored in it? You know?
Yeah, it's storage and just general things from the restaurant. There's not anything flammable or anything that would need a building permit. Mostly tables and chairs and other things that the restaurant may need to have on hand from time to time.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Abenga?
So just to be clear, did the planning commission see this rendering then too?
Yes, they did.
Further observations, questions for Planning Director Franzik?
What do we know? What I presume this is what's facing the parking lot. Is it the exact same on the other side? Because that's what would be more visible to the neighbors. Do we know, or is it just blue on the other side?
To my knowledge, it would just be blue on the other side, but I'm not sure if Mr. Harris is on the call.
Okay. And had this been shared with anybody at Harbortown, whether part of the association or any of the residents? Like, have we gotten any feedback with regard to this itself? Because at first blush, it doesn't seem like it conforms or blends in with the aesthetic of Harbortown. So I'm just curious what if any feedback we've received with regard to this.
Yeah, I believe I shared the comments I received from Harbortown. There really weren't that many. There was only 2 or 3. I did share the rendering. I believe it was with the president of Harbortown after he asked.
So yeah, she had emailed comments, and she wasn't, saying shoot it down or support it, but she was giving a lot of good feedback as to how they'd like to be engaged in the future and what they'd like to see, the process. And so, but that was prior to this rendering. And so you did share this with her afterwards, and, her association or the Harbortown Association had an opportunity to look at this and provide any additional feedback. Had any additional feedback then been received?
There was no additional feedback after I shared the rendering, no.
Anything else from the other commissioners? Then we'll go to vote.
I'll sit, Mr. Mayor.
Sure.
So I'll just, I guess my observation is that I'll have to, given the recommendation from the Planning Commission, and just seeing this rendering now, not have an opportunity to confer with the Harbortown Association or any of the residents, given that they do exist in a planned unit development, I'm inclined to, I'll have to deny the request to amend the planned unit development for this shipping container at this time. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Vote, please. Or Commissioner Emery, did you have additional?
Yeah, I just want to concur with Commissioner Johnson. After speaking with a couple of the neighbors out there, they didn't like the idea at all because it's just being used for storage and it sets a precedence. So I will be voting no. Thank you.
Thank you. Roll.
I'm sorry, did you say roll call?
Yes, please.
Commissioner Sibiga? Oh, he's talking.
Sorry, I went off mute. I guess I'm lucky I'm first. I had one more question.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir.
So what if we would deny it, what would and as Commissioner Johnson said, possibly we could get more input from Harbortown and reconsider it. Would that go through the same process as when we considered other recent votes? With it being a planned unit development?
Yeah, I believe they would have to reapply to go through the process again. Unless, I mean, if you wanted to table it for more input, but we did send the notice out and people did comment, not very many, but I feel like we did, give the public time to comment, and they did see what the rendering would look like. So I'm not sure what other information would come out of another hearing.
Mr. Mayor, something's wrong with my camera. I can't get it to stay on. But if I could, I don't, maybe I can give some of my perspective, because I think I might have, I don't know if I was the only yes vote on the planning commission, but I was a yes vote on the planning commission and it failed. And one of my worries is I feel like we see these happen, maybe not necessarily all over the city, but we see them all over the place where people use permanent temporary storage. And I think that this actually is a nice addition over there, although it doesn't look like one of the condos. But I think my question to Mike is, if they were just to have like a trailer, like a semi-trailer, like we seem to see at places like Lang Moving and Storage and stuff like that, to store things in, and it's licensed and it's parked in that parking lot. You know, my worry is that that's what the short-term or mid-term alternative is if somebody doesn't want to build a building, but can't have this, in my mind, that is reasonable over there. You know, something that probably is legal in a parking lot and could end up being short-term or medium-term or long-term storage. And I only bring it up because I see it all over the place happening. And like I said, not necessarily at Harbortown, but I don't know that, you know, that's not allowed. If that's what, you know, if these people don't have a choice, if they can't justify spending $100,000 or more to build a storage building, which we can probably guess that that's what it's going to cost, and they can't have this, what ends up being their short-term alternative in that parking lot. And I worry that in that parking lot, it would be a trailer or a semi-trailer or something that would just, that would be almost like a situation where we're getting what we wish for, i.e. we don't have this, but we don't realize what the potential other, you know, otherwise potentially legal options are for this, you know, for this or anybody else who doesn't have storage in their building, but has a big parking lot available to store things on. And maybe Mike can speak to that, whether or not that's even something, unless I'm overthinking it a little bit there.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's a slippery slope when we take away options, legal options of what they can do, and try to, you know, make the neighbors happy, painting it and sprucing it up, because there are other options, and I'm not aware of anything zoning can do. If there was a large truck that was licensed, we can't dictate where a licensed car can park, you know, if it's in a legal parking lot. And things that worry me also about large trucks like that, as we've seen before, is advertising. You know, I'm certainly not suggesting that the Harrises would do this, but if they had a truck that had advertisements for all of the Harris restaurants throughout the city, you know, that doesn't fall under our signage ordinance either. So it's definitely a possibility.
Commissioner Emery, did I see your hand going up?
Yes, it was already addressed though. Thank you.
Oh, okay, thank you. Commissioner Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to clarify, it probably was just a mix-up of words, but just to clarify that we're not taking any legal options away from them, because right now, according to the plan and unit development, this is not a legal option. With that shipping container there to be used as a storage shed. That's what we're being asked to enable it to become a legal option within the PUD. But our manager does raise some good points and questions about alternatives to this. I would like I guess if forced to vote today, I'm still a no on this, but I'm open to further consideration of how to work with the neighbors that exist within a planned unit development on a collaborative in a collaborative way to accommodate dockers and their needs there, as well as with respect to the surrounding residents who all had an expectation of, you know, their environment that they moved into as part of, you know, their homeowners association and a planned unit development. So I'm open to this, and but I'm not a yes on this right now.
good. Thank you. Commissioner Savinga.
Well, I'd make a motion to table this to the next meeting.
And as it's tabled, what do you perceive we will be doing in between now and the next meeting?
I think making sure we understand the options, that the commission understands the options that could take place if this is denied, and so we'll be in a better position to understand all the options and make a better decision on this option.
Mr. Mayor?
Sir.
Do we have the option to refer this back to the Planning Commission so that they could have a hearing to invite the Harbortown Association, those residents, and engage them on how this could work? I mean, if they're not happy with the current rendering, you know, what could make it better? A new facade to it, or if it's just no, that this doesn't work at all, and them fully understanding, you know, potential alternatives as well. Would that maybe could we refer it back to the Planning Commission for reconsideration? I guess that's my question. And I guess that's a question for legal counsel or the clerk.
Yes, you can refer it back. You may also get some better understanding what is permitted under Harbortown's bylaws within that parking lot also, which I have not looked at and have no idea.
That's a really good point.
Commissioner Savinga.
I guess I'd be of the mind just to table it and to the next city commission meeting and not refer it back to the planning commission. I guess my thought is that as a plan, they've got an opportunity to look at it, and it's possibly more a question of what options are available to them.
Commissioner German.
Yeah, just a question. Did I hear correctly? The association, condo association out there, they was not notified, or they were notified?
No, they were notified. We did get notice. They did not give a firm position as far as the association board. But yes, notifications were sent out as required by planning.
Okay.
Commissioner Savinga.
So I'm not sure. I think I made a motion to table it to the next city commission meeting, but then we didn't hear a second.
We didn't hear a second. Vice Mayor Hood.
I second that motion.
So we have a motion to table and a second. So we go right to a roll call. Is that correct?
That is correct, Mayor.
Yes, please.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Emery,
No.
Commissioner Johnson,
No.
Mayor Gowron,
No.
Vice Mayor Hood,
Yes.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Savinga.
Yes.
Motion fails.
So that leaves us needing to make a determination on the existing motion to either accept or deny. At
No, sir.
this point.
You have a motion to accept and to grant the request.
Correct. Correct. Thank you. Commissioner Enzema.
I guess if that motion to table failed, Commissioner Johnson mentioned referring it back to the Planning Commission. I think that's suboptimal. But I guess I'd prefer to do that. So that wasn't my idea though. So if someone wants to make that motion, I wonder about that as opposed to voting no on this.
Commissioner Emery?
I move to, I don't know how to say this, send it back to the Planning Commission for maybe further explanation as to their denial. Can I say it like that?
Do that or for further deliberation on options?
Yes.
I think that was where you were looking for additional deliberation on options, Commissioner Johnson?
Yeah, I support referring it back to the Planning Commission for reconsideration in consultation with the residents and property owner.
Been moved by Commissioner Emery, seconded by Commissioner Johnson, to refer the matter of the amendment to Harbortown PUD back to planning for further consideration and consultation with residents. And I would take it the interested party as well. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Mayor Gallren,
No.
Vice Mayor Hood,
Yes.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Pacifica,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Did we do anything with the original motion?
No, sir.
Okay, because it's a referral back. Okay, thanks kindly. That brings us to new business, item C, the YEP partnership. May we have this read out, please?
Staff is seeking authorization to enter into an agreement with Community Encompass through their Youth Empowerment Program to provide seasonal staffing services within the city. Staff recommended motion, authorize staff to enter into the attached agreement with Community Encompass to provide seasonal workers through their YEP program.
Vice Mayor?
I move to authorize staff to enter into the attached agreement with Community Encompass to provide seasonal workers through the YEP program.
Second.
Been moved by the Vice Mayor, seconded by Commissioner German, to authorize staff to enter into the attached agreement with Community Encompass to provide seasonal workers through their YEP program. Commissioners, questions for staff on this topic? Commissioner Emery?
Yeah, I think I saw Kimmy. On what age, I think my question is for her, what age are these young adults?
Good evening, Ms. George.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. So our YEP program has youth from 14 all the way up to 19. We focus lawn care and beautification in the 16 and up age range.
Okay, because I know it when I owned my business, I had restrictions on my insurance that I couldn't have anyone under age 18 running certain machinery. So
yep, it's actually 16, and we do a variety of cleanups. So and we have for many, many years, we've done adopt a lot since at the onset. So we've got a ton of experience in our lawn care and beautification.
I'm excited about this. I love the fact that we're able to give our youth some employment, some chance for experience and learning tools for life, and also will help our wonderful city solve our seasonal lack of seasonal employees applying for our jobs. So this is wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I appreciate that we have city staff that thinks outside of the box, and that it's really quite affirming to have them, even consider entering into this kind of agreement. We're a small organization with a small program, and this contract would actually allow us to grow this lawn care beautification piece. And I so appreciate you talking about, mentioning employing young people. This allows us, typically in our programs, we have paid through a stipend, and that's really not very competitive right now with all these jobs available. And we want students to be able to work summer jobs so they can go back to school and focus on school. So this helps also to keep them from going to, some of the stores and, fast food restaurants to get jobs. And so we're able to, if this goes through, we're able to pay them a fair wage. So we're competitive, and so we can entice these kids. And quite frankly, we have close to 30 students now. So that's pretty exciting.
Wow. Awesome. Thank you, Kimmy.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other observations or questions for Encompass Director George on this topic, or anything for Mr. Evans? Counselor.
The one thing I would note is in the packet, you have the indication that Commissioner Ramsey has a conflict. That conflict can be waived if this body desires, but you need to do it with a unanimous vote of the 6 of you.
Thank you. Commissioner German?
Yes, Mayor. If I can get just Ms. George to come back for a moment. Sure. And just let the public know how long the YEP program has existed. And just a little brief summary of the history of the YEP program.
Absolutely. We've been around for about 8 years as a YEP program, and it's actually changed over the years. It started out as a youth entrepreneurship program, and it moved from there to more of a, just a job focus. And now we're really, this is all about leadership development. It's about engaging in community. It's about, really pouring into your community through the work that we do. So everything is connected back to neighborhoods. But yeah, and we've just recently added a second director. So now we have a young man and young woman who are leading our teams and our students. So, and I think I mentioned previously, we're involved in the big art project with Dr. Massey. And we've done a lot of artwork around the community. So this isn't just about work experience. This is about life experience. This is about, building community, kind of building their own community together as young people. So I feel that it is a very important program. And as I said, this contract allows us to pay students a fair wage, which I also think is essential. So yeah, there's just so much to it. And again, I just so appreciate even being able to have this conversation and have you consider this contract.
Thank you. And that's great. And I've seen the artwork, around the city of Muskegon, and to have access to Dr. Massey. I've seen his artwork, tremendous artist, what he's done throughout this nation and around the world. So to have access and be part of that, at least youth see that type of artwork and have exposure to it, is going to be very beneficial to anyone that's aspiring to be artists.
we're quite excited about their contributions to his work.
Thank you, Commissioner German. Anything else for Ms. George or Director Evans before we move to vote? Roll call, please.
Mayor Gallren,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hood,
Yes.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Pacifica,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Looking forward to a great success with this program for both our youth and the city that we all love.
Awesome. Thank you all so very much.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll be in touch, eh?
Very good. Thank you.
That brings us to item D under new business, special event fee waiver for Rebel Road. May we have that read out, please?
Yes, the Child Abuse Council is seeking a special event waiver for Rebel Road on July 16th through the 18th of 2021. Motion is to approve the request in part from the Child Abuse Council and waive up to $5,000 in special event fees for Rebel Road.
Commissioner Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to approve the request from the Child Abuse Council and waive up to $10,000 in special event fees for Rebel Road.
Second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Johnson, seconded by Commissioner Emery, to approve the request in part from the Child Abuse Council and waive up to $10,000 in special event fees for Rebel Road. Any questions or observations? I believe this is submitted by Director Evans. Commissioner German?
Yeah, Director Evans could just kind of just bring us up to speed on this and just talk about why the request for the waiver.
Yeah, I can do my best. I've got Jackie on here as well. So when I hired her for a DPW, I inherited special events. So she can correct me where I'm wrong on this. With the year we had last year and a lot of events kind of left out in the open, we have been taking a lot of requests to waive event fees this year. Rebel Road was no different from anybody else. They approached us with a request. Their event is going to be very different than it has in year past. In that they are not going to be focused at all on Western Avenue due to the conflict with the social district that's on Western Avenue. So their event will be entirely located in Hackley Park. In some ways, I think, their beer tent probably also competes a little bit with the social district. So there's a lot of uncertainty on their end about, how well is their event going to go and what's this new footprint and new situation going to bring. So they actually approached us and approached Jackie and asked about having their fees waived. I believe their fees were estimated at around, where was that number? Just shy of 10 grand, I want to say, for the event at Hackley Park, which includes the park rental, police time, some barricading, things of that nature. There's still some things up in play depending on how it exactly shakes out, but that's a rough estimate. In addition to what you've got on Rebel Road, the city, and we're planning to close Western Avenue and treat it much the same way that it's been treated in the past. So Western will be closed. It will be open only for the bikes, Steel Horse Alley kind of thing, and that'll really feed into the district. The city really recognizes that component of it's going to carry a lot of cost in itself, just as far as police time, bathrooms, trash, just maintaining that footprint that really isn't specifically assigned to a special. And to cover that cost, the city, I believe, is proposing to raise the surcharge that goes on any beverage sold in the social district from 35 cents per cup to $1 a cup, which is meant to cover, that roughly $30,000 almost of costs that we expect to incur for Western Avenue. So it's really, this one is a little bit different than a lot of the smaller special event fees that we've brought before you for waiver. There's a lot of different moving parts with Rebel Roads event and the social district and Hot Rod Harley Davidson. So we didn't really have a good feel for how to approach it. We were actually kind of recommending a smaller amount just to see how it went for a year, but we'll take whatever the motion is out of this meeting and run with it. And I did notice Ben Cross, I believe, is also here representing Rebel Road, and Jackie as well, to answer any special event questions that I didn't cover.
Okay. Well, good evening, Mr. Cross, and good evening, Ms. Ernie.
Good evening.
Does anyone have any additional questions or input or observations for Director Evans or Mr. Cross or Ms. Ernie? And I see your hand, Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I fully support this. Obviously, I made the motion, but I think with Rebel Road, this year is in an extenuating situation, circumstances here. And I think that it's behooves the city, given the relocation and the circumstances around it in Hackley Park, and questions, concerns about solvency and sustainability of this event, that it behooves the city to give considerable support to it. I don't necessarily think that we should be waiving this extent for every event, but in this case, I think it is merited. And it's good work that the Child Abuse Council does for our community, and Rebel Road itself is a great event that brings in thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people into our community, and importing their money too, their wealth, that then circulates in our community. So I think this is a warranted waiver of fees up to that $10,000 amount. And it shows that because it did say in here that it said the minimum estimated cost of their event for fees is $9,700. And so that's where I came up with the $10,000 amount.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Vincent.
Yeah, I think, events are always a real tough one to predict, and there's so many changes here. I don't know what the right amount is, but I'm comfortable waiving $10,000. But I mean, that is a significant cost that the city's paying for the event. Because there's no other event, I guess, the social district can do that. And I think we just got to see how that goes on everybody's part. And I think it's going to be a learning experience. So I'm comfortable with the $10,000 fees being waived this year, but I definitely, if it's a similar model, let's look at it and sharpen our pencils and make sure we're, all bearing the costs and having, some shared benefit in it. So.
Great points from everyone so far. Commissioner German.
Yes, very substantial amount of dollars that we're looking to waive, $10,000. It is quite a bit of money. And the work that's being put into this, I really didn't actually know the actual cost of what it would take to put on an event, but looking at the report, it's quite a bit of time and effort that goes into putting on an event of this magnitude. Also, the work that the Child Abuse Council does is just tremendous. I can't say enough about what they do over there to help children that have been abused. And I myself was a CASA, child abuse advocate for years, and I really enjoyed the work that they do. So I could see supporting something of this nature for this cause, just to see how things go. But maybe in the future, we may look to do things a little different, but I'm in favor of moving forward with this.
Very good. Thank you, Commissioner German. Vice Mayor.
I too really thankful for the work that the Child Abuse Council does. I'm just concerned with the we went from, I was looking at 5,000 and it went to 10,000, and I just want to know if that's is that something that was discussed prior to the commission meeting, that it would go to 10,000, or is that just what Commissioner Johnson felt that it should be up to 10,000? I'm just curious to how we got from 5,000 to 10,000?
Well, that was the commissioner's suggestion based on all these moving parts and thinking that, and as you can tell from a number of your fellow commissioners, that as this is our learning curve for this year, maybe aiding it at the higher amount provides an opportunity to get a clearer picture of how we can partner in helping to sustain such a beneficial festival, as well as the beneficial and essential work that they provide as the Child Abuse Council for the kids in the community.
Just to follow up on that, have we, and it only take a minute, Commissioner Johnson. So have we helped other, I noticed that Director Evans said that there's other, there has been other activities that has asked for cuts in the, or waivers in the fees, and have we waived fees for other events also?
That is correct. Yes, we have. Nothing of this scale, but we've waived several other special event fees in totality.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else before we go to vote, commissioners? Commissioner Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I would just reiterate what a couple of my fellow commissioners have said in terms of, you know, not necessarily want to make this a pattern or a routine that we're going to be waiving this every single year, but I think that this particular year warrants it, given the changes to this festival, given that it was had to be moved to Hackley Park and not allowed to operate on Washington Avenue with their beer tents, which is how, you know, they're able to support the festival itself and generate revenue proceeds to go to the Child Abuse Council. So I think this is a unique year, extending circumstances. You know, they were kind of throwing a curveball and doing the best they can to keep that important festival going. And so I think it definitely is important for the city to support them. And that's why, you know, after assessing the situation, I made my motion for what the up to $10,000 as the information we have indicates that the minimum event cost will be $9,700. And so that's all. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Hood,
Yes.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Pacifica,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Mayor Galvin.
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you. That brings us to item E, special event fee waiver for Health West. May we have this read out, please?
Health West is seeking a special event fee waiver for their Community Health and Wellness Resource Fair on August 19, 2021. The recommended motion is to approve or in part deny the request from Health West to waive $600 in special event fees for their Health and Wellness Resource Fair.
Commissioner Renzema-Savinga?
I move to approve the request to waive this $600 in special event fees for their Health and Wellness Resource Fair.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Renzema-Savinga and seconded by Commissioner German to approve the request from Health West to waive $600 in special event fees for their Health and Wellness Resource Fair. Questions for staff, observations? Commissioner German?
Yeah, just like for staff to speak on this item also.
I will defer to Jackie. She's more for this one. I spent my time studying Rebel Road and less on this item, so.
Good evening.
Good
Health
evening.
West, approach us just a couple weeks ago about doing a COVID vaccine clinic and a health and wellness resource fair in Heckley Park. Based on their current year with COVID and not having any revenue generated by this event, they were asking the fees to be waived for the application fee and the use of Heckley Park.
All right, thank you. I'd just like to echo that by, Health West has done exceptional work in the community. And I guess we're in the mood of giving this last, 30 minutes. So, hey, I'm in favor of also waiving this one also.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anything else from the other members? Roll call, please.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Muskegon,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Mayor Gallren,
Yes,
Vice Mayor Hood.
Yes.
Motion passes.
thank you. And that brings us to the last item under new business, item F, Muskegon Social Equity Program grants.
Request to approve the proposed grant loans as part of the Muskegon Social Equity Program. The recommended motion is to approve the proposed grants and loans as part of the Muskegon Social Equity Program.
Commissioner Rinsema-Savinga,
I would move to approve the proposed grants loans as part of the Muskegon Social Equity Program.
Or
and moved by Commissioner Rinsema-Savinga, supported by Commissioner Johnson, to approve the proposed grants loans as part of the Muskegon Social Equity Program. And Mr. Franzik joins us again for any questions or observations from commissioners. Commissioners, what's your pleasure? Questions? Commissioner Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you, Mr. Franzik, for working on this and bringing this back to us. I'm excited to see that we're making progress now that we have some money from the state and from at least one of the facilities that operates in our marijuana overlay district. We have some money to work with and start putting to work for us in advancement of our local social equity program. With regard to the funds that we have, because I see, like the looks like all of them but the education training scholarship would fall under the business support category. And so how are you going to be, is there going to be a committee that reviews applications? Is it just going to be our planning manager? And as part of that process of reviewing these applications, how will the determination be to, if you get multiple applications, one for a startup grant, one for a loan, one for equipment grant, like kind of help us understand that process of determining how to distribute those dollars? Because right now, and anticipate we'll have more money next year because it was kind of a limited period for excise tax revenue. Not all the operations were up and running for this past year. So in total, it looks like we're working with 41,450 altogether, of which for business support is $12,135 that we have. So we just got over $12,000 for business support, and we've got several different potential grants that people could apply for. So how are we going to be distributing and allocating those limited resources across those different grant applications?
Our plan now would be the first come, first served basis. It is pretty heavily funded, I believe. I'm wondering how much interest we are going to get in this program. It's yet to be seen. But I did have concerns that we may have trouble spending some of it, as we've seen with some of our grant programs that work very well for economic development. Sometimes there's just not someone that meets the criteria, and this is going to be something that's funded on a yearly basis. I do expect more donations from the private industry to come in as well. So, I think we just kind of have to wait to see which one of these are going to be the most popular.
Follow up,
Can you-
Commissioner Johnson?
Yeah, and then it's pretty standard for the education side. We just got one piece for that right now. So we got up to $14,157.50 to work with at the moment, according to the numbers that I have for educational and training scholarship. So that's good, and then that's based upon reimbursement for completion of the course or training. Could you explain, because I didn't necessarily see a definition, but it references low-level marijuana conviction. Could you speak to what criteria is being used to determine that qualifier?
Yeah, I believe that's something the commission actually came up with for the Muskegon Social Equity Program to put that in there. That was not led by staff, but I believe some of the discussion with Mr. Schreier during these discussions was that it can't just be a marijuana conviction. And along with that conviction, there were, illegal guns and other types of crimes involved. It would have to be something that was just marijuana related.
Any other commissioners have a question for Mr. Franzik, Commissioner German?
Yes. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Commissioner Johnson. That was one of the questions that I had. But also it says previous. So are we looking at just something more recently, Mr. Franzik, or something maybe a 5-year prior, 10-year prior conviction? And this person wanted to get into the industry of having a marijuana dispensary or being part of it. So how, I guess, what is the timeline? What are we looking at?
It can go back as far as, they can prove that it happened to them. I believe, the word previous is just, while marijuana is legal now, are certain convictions that you could still have. Under the law, you could have possessed too much or be caught selling it illegally. I don't think that would qualify you. I think this is for cases that have happened that were previous to the recreation and medical marijuana laws being enacted.
Okay, got you. All right. Thank you for clarifying that.
Any additional questions or observations, commissioners? Follow up, Commissioner Johnson?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you, Ms. Franzik, for some of the insights into the low-level marijuana conviction. When we were deliberating on this, as I recall, back in November, December, maybe even it was October when we started talking of 2019. I remember there was at one point a version and at least one other commissioner who was advocating that it's not just the individual that may have been incarcerated who should benefit, but the children thereof, because they were impacted by prohibition and residents being impacted or ensnared by prohibition, which we all know cannabis prohibition disproportionately affected people of color and low-income folks. And so those children of the incarcerated were also negatively affected. It wasn't just that individual. And so was there, in terms of finalizing this grant application, was there consideration to making it available to children of the past incarcerated or convicted?
No, there wasn't. But now that you mentioned that, I do recall that discussion. So I suppose I would be supportive of including that if the commission felt to do so. I guess maybe one thing we I would just recommend maybe possibly seeing how much, how popular this grant becomes. If we open it up to more people, it may exclude others. We may want to leave it as this now, and if we have extra funding after a year, we could add that in. But I guess I don't have a strong feeling either way.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, right now we are rather limited resources funding these grants. So it's maybe best to just move forward as is, and we can tweak and expand it going forward, and particularly as more resources become available for the program. Unless my fellow commissioners feel strongly otherwise, that's just my thoughts right now.
Yeah, I'm of a mind where I think perhaps move ahead to see what the popularity is, and especially looking at limited finances at this point, to see how it goes moving on after today, should it pass, and to see if if there's potential of expanding our resources, then potentially expanding our outreach for benefits to people that have been affected. Commissioner Sherman, before I started talking, I think I saw your hand going up.
Yes, Mayor. Yeah, pretty much you just kind of hit on it, but I just wanted to make sure I heard Commissioner Johnson correctly, and you just kind of mentioned it. But you were looking at actual family members who have been affected during a marijuana prohibition to provide resources or grants to those offspring. Is that what you were indicating, Commissioner Johnson?
Correct. Yes, that was our conversation in the past of potentially supporting children of those that had been ensnared. And I think at the time, maybe more of an emphasis on the educational grants or training, but also potentially also the business support. But I think at the time it was more directed towards educational support.
And I think that's something that should be considered in the future as well. I agree with that, and maybe through the educational piece that would be beneficial also to those people or youth or family members, because we do know, and as you mentioned, the population that was impacted the greatest by this marijuana prohibition. And I've said it publicly before that now that it has been legalized, we have people benefiting off of the benefits of it being legal now. But you have the convicted who have done time and coming out, and they do not have a equitable or pathway to that business of entrepreneurship in this industry. So I think we need to look at all type of avenues to try to make this social equity initiative work, which and what it was intended to do under the state guidelines. So thank you.
Thank you. Anything else, commissioners, before we go to vote? Roll call, please.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Muskegon,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Mayor Gallren,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hood.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Franzik.
Thank you.
That brings us to any other business to be brought before the body by one of our very own. I believe, Commissioner Emery, you do have something, correct?
I do. Now that our state is fully open, I would like to revisit meeting in person again at City Hall. Not sure how to bring that up except to state it.
That's how you say it.
Okay.
So I know we've had brief discussions before. We are presented with the fact that the state as of the 22nd, and that being today, is fully open without most restrictions. And we find ourselves with that reality. Feelings by other commissioners regarding that at this point. I'm of a mind that I'm open to reconvening at City Hall. I know that we can continue to make our own safeguards, by keeping the place extremely clean, et cetera. And we can still wear our masks if need be, but I think faced with the realities of the governor and our Health and Human Services deeming it appropriate this time to reopen, perhaps it is time for us to reconvene in person. Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I agree that I'd be in favor, or I am in favor of reconvening starting with our July meetings in person. I mean, as you all know, I brought this up previously. If I had my way, we'd be in person right now. But at the same time, I do want us to be sensitive to any of our fellow commissioners and staff members and the public in terms of potential concerns with this pandemic. While we may be reopening, the pandemic's not over, and there is a Delta variant that is spreading that is more contagious and a worse strain. So while meeting in person, I would certainly encourage us to make available that the hybrid model, so that if a member of the commission or staff did not feel comfortable being present in person, they could participate via Zoom or some other electronic means, and that we also allow public comment to be received via phone in the event that members of our community don't feel comfortable attending in person to participate in our meetings. Thank you.
For the clerk and for council, as you know, reading for the Open Meetings Act and the requirements and whatnot, at this juncture, is there a provision for a hybrid to allow a portion of the body to meet remotely?
At this point in time, it is technically legal to do that. I will tell you, I would encourage you to ask the city's IT people as to the problems with it. I can share with this body that I recently participated in a meeting that was a hybrid. It was okay, extremely cumbersome and difficult to arrange where the people were seated so that they could be seen on the video and see each other.
With our new equipment and capabilities within chambers, is there any opinion from staff on this?
Mayor, we do have the new equipment there, but I would concur with Mr. Schreier in his assessment that the equipment isn't to make hybrid meetings easier. I would see it as cumbersome.
Any other observations or questions from the other commissioners? I know that I appreciate Commissioner Johnson's appreciation of the comfort level of the other members. We're looking at a couple of weeks out, but Commissioner German.
Oh, yes, thank you, Mayor. Uh, I shared earlier with a commissioner about the option of returning face-to-face meetings. And although I know the public and some commissioners may be somewhat anxious to come back and get back to that somewhat sense of normalcy. And I am aware of the Delta variants that's out here in the United States. That's a huge major concern. And also Commissioner Johnson, he did mention that as well. It's still, we're still in that pandemic mode where, we just don't know. Taking all the safety precautions and CDC precautions, I think it's great that these numbers are down, but who's to say people that have been vaccinated and the ones that have not are going to comply with CDC guidelines and safety precautions? That concerns me. If giving the fact of a hybrid attempt where we could actually hold meetings, I think that would be beneficial as well. At this time, I'm just not open to it. That's just my take on it, and respect for the others that who wants to meet in person and the others that don't. But that's just my preference.
Thank you, Commissioner German. Other input from commissioners? Vice Mayor, your hand is up, sir.
Yeah. I mean, I respect the comments made by all of our commissioners, the ones that want to meet in person. Commissioner Johnson put out about the hybrid meetings. I would be more inclined to do the hybrid meetings because I'm not all that comfortable with where we are at right now with this, the Delta variant is picking up in the United States. We do have that variant in Michigan, to my understanding, which is more deadlier and more transmitted than the previous variants. And you just don't know. I just don't feel comfortable. That's me. I'm not comfortable with being around a lot of family members that's not from my household also. So, but I guess, whatever the commission comes up with on the vote is what I'll go with.
There's not a actual motion at this point, but discussion. We are missing another voice here tonight, which is Commissioner Ramsey. I'd really like to have a full commission to fully discuss this. At this point, unfortunately we're handicapped with that. But Commissioner Emery, did you have a follow-up?
Yeah, yes. I just wanted to thank my fellow commissioners and let them know that I appreciate your responses and how you feel. And maybe hybrid is the way that we can proceed. And yes, Mr. Mayor, I absolutely agree that all of us need to be involved in this.
Thank you.
So thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Commissioner Enzima, did I see your hand begin to gravitate up?
Yeah, I don't think I have anything to add. I would like to meet in person when we can, but maybe the idea to wait for the full commission is a good one.
Commissioner Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. May I propose that we have a brief special meeting virtually on June 30th, which would be before we publish the agenda for, actually, yeah, I guess June 30th or July 7th, because our next meeting is July 12th. And if like a week or more prior, if we could have a brief special meeting virtually of all the commissioners to discuss, and this also gives staff time to explore our technological capabilities. We do have some great new technology and equipment and in our chambers, which we haven't been able to use yet. But explore that, and maybe it's not a case of each commissioner needs to be seen and to see every single one, but as long as we're heard, that's, I think, paramount. I mean, sometimes, you know, our video isn't working here anyhow, and all you do is hear us and not see us. So, you know, if that's a complication or conundrum that I heard before of trying to make sure that every commissioner is seen and can see every other one, we know that that doesn't happen universally as it is now. So that's what I would propose is that, you know, at the end of this month or, you know, early July, have a brief special virtual meeting to explore this and give staff time to explore the technological capabilities, and then have a full commission deliberation on how to proceed. It sounds like there's a consensus to do at least hybrid. And so I'd like to explore that and hopefully do that.
Commissioners, what's your pleasure? The 30th would come under our time set aside for legislative affairs. 7th would give perhaps staff more time to look at the potentials of our technology and any of the drawbacks. Commissioners, your pleasure.
Just to clarify, sorry, I know we've already been speaking, but just to clarify that our next Legislative Policy Committee meeting is actually scheduled for Wednesday, July 28th. It's not the June.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted to clarify.
Very good. Yes. Oh, yeah. Right. Go ahead. Please.
I would just like to mention, so the for a couple of various reasons. First, the clerk's office is in the middle of running 3 really big events, and an election. So I just wonder if we need to have a special meeting rather than, I don't know if Mr. Schreier, if we can, if we're just trying the equipment out, if we can just pick a day to try it after I have our company come in and I work with our people. And we have been in discussions about this for a long time, so this is not a surprise. You know, we have been thinking it through and we have looked at our stuff. But I just wondered if we could do it without having a special meeting, if it could be a little bit more, less formal. That we're just testing it out. We're just testing out the equipment. We're not like talking about any items. We're not debating anything. We just want to see if the equipment works. Is that my understanding? Is that Commissioner Johnson that you were hoping for?
That's not what I was asking, but I'm open to that. I was envisioning a virtual meeting like we're doing right now, you know, whether at the end of the month or July 7th or sometime early in July, where we're just jumping on a Zoom and with all 7 of us. And then that's given you some time to test out the equipment at your leisure. But I'm happy to come in and be a so to speak, a guinea pig to test it with you. I'm happy to help in that regard. So, you know, whichever is more convenient for you. If we are allowed to come in informally and test it out collectively, I'm all for that. If it's you know, us just getting on a Zoom and discussing it after you and others maybe have had an opportunity to test it out at your convenience. And again, I'm at your disposal in that regard.
As long as we don't talk about public business, I believe, Mr. Schreier, then we would be allowed to do that, where we could have the 5 that want to come in person and then the 2 on Zoom, and we could just test it all out together and then be able to see both ways of it and, you know, figure it out from there.
Sure, and I would suggest a couple staff people perhaps pretend that they are in the audience in the public and are calling in.
And that would be arranging for participation by all of us at the same time.
Sure, just as long as we're not going to discuss any substantive topic. We'll talk about the Tigers or something.
Yeah, and that way we can do, we could do a functional rollout of some sort or a test.
Sure.
Perfect. I'll get together with our camera people and everybody else that I need to let them work on their end, and then I will email some times and dates if that's okay.
It sounds good, and we could take it out for a drive. Vice Mayor?
What date was that and time?
We haven't said it yet.
I was going to send out some dates, Vice Mayor, once the camera people and our OIT can work on it and feel more comfortable with it.
And then the clerk will send out the date after everybody's scheduled in, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Make sense, everyone? All right. Anything else on this topic? Are there any other issues or observations, questions, information to be brought before this body before we go to public comment? Then let us go to public comment. At this time, members of the public are invited to call in to make public comment. Each individual is given 3 minutes to give comment. We just asked for your name, your address. You are allocated 3 minutes. We do not engage in debate or dialogue at this time for particular questions. We can put you in contact with the appropriate staff member if that is necessary in order to investigate your question or your concern. No one in the queue?
No one in the queue.
Vice Mayor, would you like to take us home, please?
Yes. It's been a good meeting, and if there's nothing else, I make a motion to adjourn.
Support.
Then moved by the Vice Mayor, supported by Commissioner Johnson to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any in opposition? Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Take
Stay
care. Be
safe.
well, all.
Ian, can you stay on a second?
Yes.
Let me swing by.
Well, I mean,